Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of fascinating sources, articles, research, and our own notes, and really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, custom-tailored just for you. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the often romanticized, sometimes pretty brutal world of startups. You know the image, right? It's the stuff of movies, tech lore, the brilliant idea, the visionary founder burning the midnight oil, brilliant team, all fueled by caffeine, and it's like superhuman dedication.
Yeah, totally. It's that explosive rags to riches story, the modern fairy tale you see on magazine covers.
Exactly. The idea that if you just have the right stuff, the right vision, work hard enough, success is pretty much guaranteed.
It's super compelling narrative, isn't it? Captures the imagination, makes you believe in genius.
Yeah.
But as our sources, especially Eric Ries, author of the Lean Startup show, that narrative, while inspiring, it often hides a much grimmer reality for most people. Ries himself talks about this really painful early failure. His company seemed to have everything. I mean, everything for success. Like a great product, this social network for college kids to share profiles with employers. Brilliant team, amazing tech, what they thought was perfect timing. Yet he said it felt like the world just fell out from under them. And the realization that those stories in the magazines, they were, in his words, lies.
Wow, that's a real gut punch. Doing everything right, pouring your heart into it, and it still just implodes?
No.
So if it wasn't lack of effort or a bad vision, what was the problem? For Ries, for so many others, what did he figure out?
Well, Ries had this profound, almost revolutionary realization. Success wasn't about having the right stuff, that kind of magic combo of genius, timing, luck, or just being in the right place, right time. It was fundamentally about process.
Process, not genius.
Yeah, process.
Yep.
The failure wasn't lack of effort or smart people or even a bad idea. It was not knowing the process, the actual steps to turn those insights and that vision into a great, sustainable company. And that really challenges the myth. Because if hard work alone isn't enough, well, it removes that easy excuse, doesn't it? Oh, we just didn't have the right stuff. It points to something deeper, something you can actually fix.
Okay, let's dig into that. If the right stuff isn't the magic bullet and sheer willpower isn't enough, what is the answer? How can something like process, which sounds kind of dry, be the key to something as dynamic as a startup?
Right. And that's what this deep dive is all about, the Lean Startup. It proposes exactly that, a radical new approach. It treats entrepreneurship not as art, not as a gamble, but as a kind of management.
Management for startup.
Yeah, but a new kind. It says building a successful startup isn't magic. It's not just charisma or genius. It's a scientific process, a discipline, something you can actually learn, teach, and importantly, replicate. It asks us to kind of push past our usual ideas. Entrepreneurship is exciting chaos. Yeah. Management is dull bureaucracy. Instead, it says find the excitement, the real innovation, in a new kind of management built for that extreme uncertainty that defines any new venture.
So what does this mean for you, our listener? Whether you're building something new, launching an initiative, maybe even trying a new idea inside a big company, what's the payoff for understanding this boring stuff, as Ries calls it?
You get an incredible shortcut. Honestly, this deep dive will make you really well informed about a genuinely new way to think about innovation. We're going to share some surprising insights that can prevent huge waste, not just money or time, though obviously that too, but more importantly, the waste of our most precious resource, human passion, skill, creative energy. We're going to explore in detail how this seemingly boring stuff about systematic process and scientific management is actually what matters most, how it helps engineer real success and avoid those heartbreaking failures.
All right, let's kick off our deeper dive then. Let's really face that grim reality of startup failure and the traditional thinking that, honestly, often sets ventures up for failure from the start. You mentioned this grim reality and a myth-making industry. Can you unpack that a bit? It sounds like it's not just bad luck.
Exactly. It's not just bad luck. The reality is stark. Most startups, the vast majority of new products, innovative ventures inside companies, they fail. They just don't live up to their potential. This isn't just, a few sad stories you hear. It's systemic. It's pervasive. And Ries talks about this powerful myth-making industry that, maybe without meaning to, actively hides this. It keeps pushing this false narrative of instant meteoric success.
He's the myth-making industry.
Yeah.
Media, VCs.
Could be all of them. Media, VCs, maybe even other founders. They want us to believe that with enough determination, brilliance, timing, and especially a perfect product, anyone can hit the jackpot. It's the overnight success story. Wake up a billionaire.
It's that modern rags to riches thing, isn't it? Sounds so inspiring, like a hero's quest. But it sounds like it glosses over some hard truths and maybe offers dangerous comfort. Why does this myth stick around so hard, even with all the evidence against it?
The appeal is incredibly deep. It makes success seem almost like inevitable, a natural result if you just have the right stuff.
Hmm.
And this mindset, it subtly suggests that the mundane details, the boring stuff, the small choices, the day-to-day grind, those things don't really matter.
Right. Just have the big idea.
Yeah, it pushes that if we build it, they will come mentality, where the sheer genius of the product overcomes everything. And maybe worst of all, when failure hits, which it usually does, the myth gives you this ready-made, comfortable excuse. Well, we weren't visionary enough, or wrong place, wrong time. Risa saw this firsthand, working with hundreds of entrepreneurs. This narrative, while comforting, actually stops people from really learning from failure, deeply, honestly learning.
And it seems like traditional management practices, the kind taught in business schools for ages, the stuff that built the industrial giants, they're just completely wrong for this chaotic, uncertain startup world. They're built for a different problem, right?
Precisely. Conventional business practices came out of managing large, stable, predictable operations. Think Frederick Winslow Taylor. Scientific management, optimizing efficiency when the task is clear, the outcome predictable.
Right. Assembly lines, predictable outputs.
Exactly. In those stable times, a detailed plan, a solid strategy, thorough market research, those were good signs of success. You'd spend months, maybe years, perfecting a strategy before you did anything. But here's the key difference. Startups operate under extreme uncertainty. They often do not yet know who their customer is or what their products should be. They're constantly discovering.
So planning is kind of pointless.
Well, extensive upfront planning and forecasting are often wildly inaccurate,
Yeah.
almost futile, because there's no long, stable history or static environment to base it on. You're basically planning a trip to a place you haven't found on the map yet.
Okay, so if over-planning with bad assumptions is a problem, then the opposite, what Ries calls the just do it school, must be the answer. Just jump in, iterate like crazy, figure it out as you go, embrace the chaos.
It's a natural reaction, isn't it? If traditional management is too rigid, too slow, then surely just pure energy and improvisation is the way. Ries admits he was part of this just do it school early on. He says this thinking, if management is the problem, chaos is the answer. Actually leads to chaos more often than it does to success.
Yeah.
His own painful failures, he admits, were exactly like that. Driven by just do it, without any guiding process, no framework for learning. It sounds freeing, just build and launch. But without a systematic way to measure and learn, it often just creates more waste, more frantic activity that doesn't actually get you anywhere useful.
That makes me think of that analogy Ries uses, comparing a startup plan to launching a rocket versus driving a car. Can you walk us through that? It really hits home the danger of that plan everything up front idea.
It's a really powerful metaphor. Traditional business plans, with all that excruciating detail, multi-year forecast, precise instructions.
Yeah.
They were like rocket launch plans. Every burn, every maneuver, planned years in advance. The problem, Ries points out, is that the tiniest error in assumptions at launch can lead to catastrophic results thousands of miles later. With a rocket, once it's launched, you're pretty much locked into that trajectory.
Unlike driving a car.
Exactly. Driving a car, you get immediate constant feedback. Steering wheel, the road, traffic. You adjust course in real time. A rocket commits to a path with very little real-time correction. Startups, they're operating in fog. They need to be cars, constantly adjusting, not rockets locked onto a potentially flawed path.
So you plan this perfect rocket launch, execute it flawlessly, the team works like crazy, and you still crash because your initial assumptions were wrong. That sounds exactly like what Ries calls achieving failure successfully. Chilling phrase.
It is chilling. It highlights the tragedy of wasted effort. Ries gives this stark example from a company he worked with. They forecast millions of customers for a new product, planned this huge, splashy launch. The team worked incredibly hard. The company successfully executed its plan, built massive infrastructure, hired loads of people for the millions of customers, launched with a big bang.
Yeah.
Customers did not flock to the product.
Yeah.
Barely showed up, actually.
Ouch.
And because the company was so committed, so rigid in that flawed plan, they couldn't adapt quickly. Too invested in that initial trajectory. They had, in Ries's words, achieved failure successfully, executed a flawed plan perfectly.
Yeah.
That's a uniquely modern kind of waste.
And that waste isn't just about money for the company or the people involved, is it? Ries talks about a bigger cost to society.
He absolutely does. He makes this profound point that these failures aren't just economic damage. That's bad enough, obviously. But they represent something bigger. a colossal waste of our civilization's most precious resource, the time, passion, and skill of its people. Think about it. All that ingenuity, drive, creative energy poured into things that go nowhere, not because of lack of effort, but lack of effective process. The lean startup movement, really, is dedicated to preventing these failures, giving a framework, a scientific approach to avoid that blind, wasteful execution of bad assumptions. It's about aiming human potential at truly valuable things.
That's a perfect lead-in to part two, where we really get into what the lean startup actually is. You said it redefines entrepreneurship. What does that mean? Is it just for, the stereotypical young guys in garages building apps?
Not at all. That common picture, the young visionary in a garage, the isolated genius, Ries challenges that directly. He gives a much broader, much more useful definition. A startup is a human institution designed to create new products and services under conditions of extreme uncertainty.
Okay, human institution and extreme uncertainty.
Right. And that definition is key because it says nothing about the size of the company, the industry, or the sector of the economy.
So if it's about extreme uncertainty and creating new stuff, then entrepreneurs are everywhere, not just Silicon Valley.
Exactly. Our sources give great examples that stretch this way beyond the usual startup story. Think government agencies. President Obama actually told the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, to adopt a startup mindset. Despite having a $500 million budget, they were trying to innovate under massive uncertainty.
And interesting.
Or nonprofits, always trying new solutions. And crucially, entrepreneurs are inside big companies. Like Intuit's SNAP Teching Tac, file taxes by taking a picture of your W-2 on your phone. Totally new, competed with their own TurboTax. Kodak Gallery, HP, even Procter & Gamble's Village laundry service in India, they literally put washing machines on pickup trucks to test the concept in villages.
Wow.
These are all ventures operating under extreme uncertainty, but within big, established places.
That institution part of the definition still sounds a bit, bureaucratic, kind of the opposite of agile and exciting startups. How can an institution be lean and innovative?
It's a key point, and yeah, it feels counterintuitive. But successful startups have to manage things. Hiring, coordinating teams, building a culture. You need that to deliver results consistently. It's not about avoiding management or just embracing chaos. It's about developing a new kind of management. One specifically built for uncertainty and rapid learning, not rigid execution of a fixed plan.
Okay.
Ries even argues that entrepreneur should be considered a job title in all modern companies that depend on innovation for their future growth. It's about building an organization that can keep learning, adapting, innovating, that needs structured processes, not just chaos. It's managed entrepreneurship.
Fascinating. And where did this whole lean startup idea even come from? Sounds like it has surprising roots in something totally different, like manufacturing.
It does. It's a brilliant borrowing of ideas. Lean startup comes directly from the lean manufacturing revolution developed by Taiichi Ohno and Shigeo Shingo at Toyota in Japan after World War II.
Toyota.
Yeah, their system was a radical new way to think about making physical things. Instead of mass production, their key ideas were things like using the knowledge of workers on the factory floor, shrinking batch sizes, making fewer things at a time, just-in-time production, tight inventory control, speeding up cycle times.
Okay.
They taught the world how to relentlessly find value-creating activities versus waste, and how to build quality in from the start, not just inspect it at the end.
But manufacturing is about physical stuff, cars. Startups are often about ideas, software, services. How do you adapt those very concrete manufacturing principles to something so intangible? What's the key twist for innovation?
That's the genius move of lean startup. In lean manufacturing, progress is measured by making high-quality physical goods efficiently. But in a lean startup, where the product and customer are still fuzzy, the unit of progress is totally different. It's validated learning.
Validated learning.
This is central, pivotal.
Yeah.
It shifts the whole focus from building stuff to gaining insight.
Okay, let's dive deeper into these core principles then. Starting with validated learning, what exactly is it, and why is it so critical for a startup basically operating in the dark?
Validated learning is the startup's real unit of progress. And it's crucial to get this. It's not after-the-fact rationalization or a good story designed to hide failure. That happens all the time in traditional postmortems, right?
Yeah, spin doctoring.
Exactly. Instead, it's a rigorous method for demonstrating progress when one is embedded in the soil of extreme uncertainty. Think of it like real scientific discovery, but in a business context. It's more concrete, more accurate, and much faster than traditional market forecasting or classical business planning because it's based on real-world interaction, not just spreadsheets.
Right.
Essentially, validated learning is the principal antidote to the lethal problem of achieving failure successfully. That thing where you perfectly execute a plan that's totally wrong. It stops you building stuff nobody wants.
So it's about proving you're actually learning something valuable, not just staying busy or spending money. How do you actually do that? What's the practical process for getting this validated learning?
That brings us right to the build, measure, learn feedback loop. This is the fundamental activity of a startup, the
Oh,
engine of validated learning.
gold measure learn.
It's a continuous cycle. You start with your ideas, which are really just hypotheses. You turn those ideas into products, but not perfect finished products, just enough to test your hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Then you meticulously measure how real customers respond to those products.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, based on that data, you learn. Was your hypothesis right? That leads you to either pivot your strategy, make a big change, or persevere on the current path. The whole lean startup process aims for one thing: accelerate that feedback loop as much as possible. Because the faster you learn, the less time, money, passion you waste.
And to make sure you're truly learning, not just seeing what you want to see, you need a different way to measure things, right? This is where that boring stuff comes in again, this innovation accounting. Why do startups need a whole new kind of accounting?
Exactly. Innovation accounting. It highlights that critical, often missed, need to focus on how to measure progress, set meaningful milestones, prioritize work in a startup environment. This new kind of accounting is designed specifically for startups and crucially for the people holding them accountable: investors, internal bosses, even the founders themselves.
So how is it different?
It's about measuring productivity differently. In a traditional company, productivity might be, features shipped, lines of code written.
Yeah.
But in a startup, that could be really deceptive.
Right, you could build a lot of stuff nobody uses.
Precisely. Innovation accounting measures productivity not by output, but by how much validated learning you gain. For example, a programmer might feel super productive after 8 hours coding, shipping a beautiful feature. But if validated learning shows that feature is a total waste because customers don't want it, well, that wasn't real productivity in a startup context. Innovation accounting helps you avoid that trap.
That totally shifts the mindset, doesn't it? From just building things to learning as fast as possible. Let's move into part 3 and see these concepts in action, specifically that build, measure, learn loop. It all starts with those leap of faith assumptions. What are those and why are they so dangerous if you don't nail them down and test them?
These are the absolute bedrock assumptions, the core beliefs whose success of the entire venture rests on them. They're the biggest unknowns. If they turn out true, tremendous opportunity awaits. Clear path to success. But if they're false, the startup risks total failure. Doesn't matter how brilliant the product is or how hard the team works. Ries points out 2 crucial ones that pretty much every startup makes, often without even realizing it: the value hypothesis and the growth hypothesis.
The value hypothesis seems pretty straightforward. Do customers get value? But how do you define and measure that rigorously in a lean way?
The value hypothesis asks the fundamental question: does a product or service truly deliver value to customers once they're actually using it? It's not about whether they say they want it or might use it. It's demonstrated, empirical value.
Like how?
For Facebook, early on, the key indicator was just the raw time active users spent on the site. More than half of users came back every single day. That wasn't just a number. It was powerful empirical proof that users found it valuable enough to weave into their daily lives. That's validated learning about value.
And the growth hypothesis. How do you know if new customers will actually find and adopt your product sustainably?
The growth hypothesis looks at exactly that: how new customers will discover the product, and crucially, how it will spread through the market, hopefully organically. Again, early Facebook, it's insane growth across college campuses. Like almost 3/4 of Harvard undergrads using it within a month, with zero marketing spent. That empirically validated its growth hypothesis through viral spread. People were telling friends, it took off on its own. Powerful validation: you found something that self-propagates.
It's interesting how often startup pitches rely on analogies. You hear, we're the Uber for X, or our product will do for Y what Z did for Q. But Ries says these analogies, while catchy, can be really dangerous. Why is that?
They're inherently misleading. Analogies like, our tech X will win market Y, like old tech Z did. They tend to obscure the true leap of faith. Their main goal is often to make the business seem less risky, create familiarity, inevitability, basically persuade people. But they often mask the core, untested assumptions. Ries says instead of these grand, untested claims, you need rigorous empirical testing. Are there really hungry customers eager for your specific solution right now? An analogy might confirm a market exists, but it doesn't confirm your solution works in it or that customers will pay.
So how do you find these actual leaps of faith, test them rigorously, and avoid that analogy trap?
Randy Conasar, a veteran VC, offers this really helpful framework using analogs and analogs.
Analogs and antilogs.
Yeah, an analog is a similar company or product that already succeeded in a similar context. It validates a question you don't need to test. So Sony's Walkman was an analog for the iPod. It proved people would listen to music in public with earphones. Steve Jobs didn't need to waste time or money testing that assumption. Market proven. An antilog, on the other hand, is a similar company or product that disproves an assumption, forcing you to tackle that challenge head-on. Napster, for example, proved to Apple that people were not willing to pay for digital music.
Right.
So the iPod had to address that, making paying desirable, easy, legal via the iTunes Store. These analogs and antilogs, analyzed properly, help you strip away the obvious and focus on the unique unanswered questions. Those are your real leaps of faith, the ones you absolutely must test.
Once you've got those leaps of faith identified, those key unanswered questions, time to test them. And that means getting out there and talking to, or more importantly, watching real customers, right? This idea of Genchi Genbutsu.
Absolutely. Genchi Genbutsu, Japanese term from Toyota, literally means go and see for yourself. Foundational principle. It's unacceptable to take anything for granted or rely solely on the reports of others. Jeffrey Liker, who wrote about the Toyota way, stresses this. You cannot truly understand a business problem or validate a customer need unless you see it firsthand. In the customer's actual life context, no amount of market research reports or focus groups beats direct observation.
So instead of sitting in an office doing abstract research, you go out and find the problem by experiencing it or watching others, like Scott Cook from Intuit did way back.
Exactly. When Scott Cook came up with Intuit in 1982, he had this radical idea. Someday, normal people would use PCs to manage and pay bills. Wild idea then.
Yeah,
Instead of commissioning big, expensive market research, he just picked up phone books. Remember those? Started cold calling random people in Palo Alto and Winnetka. He'd just ask, do people find it frustrating to pay bills by hand? Go. This direct empirical testing, talking to real people about a real pain point, confirmed a big problem worth solving, gave him the early qualitative validation he needed to start what became a huge company.
And it applies even to existing products and companies like the Toyota Sienna minivan story, not just for disruptive startups.
It's a fantastic example of Genchi Genbutsu for sustaining innovation, too. The chief engineer for the Toyota Sienna, Yoko, didn't just look at sales charts. He spent months in America, immersing himself watching minivan users.
What did he see?
He quickly realized while parents own the van, it's the kids who rule it. He saw kids occupy the back 2/3, and they were often the most critical users of that space on long road trips.
Ah, interesting perspective.
This deep, direct insight led Toyota to invest unusually heavily in internal comfort features, specifically for those long family road trips, which are way more common in America than Japan. This unique focus, born from direct observation, boosted the Sienna's market share significantly. Shows Genchi Genbutsu is valuable even for iterative improvements.
So you're not just defining a static customer profile, but treating that ideal customer as a hypothesis itself, something to be tested out in the wild.
Precisely. That customer archetype, your ideal profile, should always be seen as provisional, not a fact, until it's validated through real interaction and data showing your strategy can serve this customer type sustainably. This direct, hands-on approach is the antidote to analysis paralysis. That trap where you endlessly refine plans based on hypotheticals, never building anything. And conversely, it prevents the just-do-it trap of building blindly after just a few superficial customer chats. It balances getting started quickly with really learning what works.
Okay, once you've identified those core assumptions, you're ready to test them. That leads into the build phase, creating the minimum viable product, or MVP. This isn't about building the absolute smallest possible product, is it? Like some stripped-down, barely working version.
No, that's a really common misconception. The MVP is not the smallest possible product. It's the fastest way to get through the build, measure, learn feedback loop with the minimum amount of effort.
Fastest way through the loop.
Okay. Its single goal is to start learning from real customers, not finish the final product.
Yeah.
Unlike a traditional prototype that might just answer technical or design questions, the MVP is specifically engineered to test your fundamental business hypotheses. your value and growth hypotheses with actual users out in the messy real world. It's about getting something in front of real customers fast to see if your core assumptions hold up.
I absolutely love the Groupon story, their humble MVP beginnings. It's almost unbelievable that a huge company started so simply, comically simple almost.
It's a classic lean startup tale. Groupon started as The Point, this collective activism platform that wasn't really working. Founder Andrew Mason and the team pivoted. For their MVP, they literally used a WordPress blog. Totally ghetto, as Ries puts it.
Oh, WordPress blog. Seriously?
Seriously. Each day, new posts for a deal like 2-for-1 pizza at a local place. Didn't even have proper forms. Customers emailed special requests.
Yeah.
The actual coupons, handmade PDFs sent out via Apple Mail by Andrew and the team.
That's amazing.
This incredibly cobbled-together MVP, nowhere near perfect or scalable, proved the core concept, a deal driven by group buying power, was something people really liked. Before they invested a cent in complex tech, it was just enough to validate demand.
So if your first product is this cobbled together MVP, it's probably not perfect or beautiful. Why isn't a perfect, polished first product the goal? Seems so counterintuitive for founders.
It is a hard truth for many perfectionist, visionary founders. Their vision is world-changing, polished, beautiful.
Okay.
But Ries argues that early adopters, the customers you target with an MVP, are actually suspicious of something that is too polished.
Suspicious. Why?
If it looks ready for the masses, why should an early adopter, who usually wants novelty and influence, bother? What's in it for them? Ries says additional features or polish beyond what early adopters demand is a form of wasted resources and time.
Right.
Your goal isn't perfection, it's learning. Shipping a buggy, incomplete product, as he says, allows faster learning and validation with that forgiving, engaged early adopter group who are often just happy to be part of something new.
Another brilliant example of a simple MVP testing complex technical problem is Dropbox's video. Classic.
Absolutely. Dropbox founders Drew Houston and Arash Ferdowsi faced a really complex technical problem, seamless file sync across devices. Plus, it was a problem most people didn't even realize they had or understood until they saw a seamless solution work like magic. It would take years, millions of dollars, to build working software just to demo the core value, given the tech hurdles. So instead of that huge investment, Drew made a simple, almost banal 3-minute demo video.
Just a video?
Yeah, walked viewers through how Dropbox would work when finished. Crucially, it was full of in-jokes and tech references for the specific early adopters he was targeting. This video MVP drove their beta waitlist from 5,000 to an incredible 75,000 literally overnight.
Wow.
It powerfully validated their core leap of faith assumption that customers would value the product immensely if it just worked like magic, all without building a single line of working code.
And what about the concierge MVP? That sounds even more hands-on, almost ridiculously inefficient by normal business standards.
It is, and it's proof of the power of learning over efficiency early on. Take Manuel Rosso's startup, Food on the Table. Aimed to create personalized meal plans and grocery lists based on local supermarket deals.
Okay.
Instead of building complex software for thousands of stores and deal algorithms, they started with one customer and no software.
One customer, no software. How?
Manuel, the CEO, and his VP of product personally visited her every week, reviewed sales flyers at her preferred store, baked recipes, delivered a prepared packet with a shopping list, and most importantly, collected a $9.95 check each week.
They personally delivered meal plans.
Yep. This inefficient concierge MVP, totally unscalable by traditional metrics, gave them monumental progress. They learned deeply what customers truly valued and would pay for before automating anything. They only started building software when they got too busy to serve more customers personally, which is exactly the right time.
That's incredible. And I've heard Aardvark did something similar, a human backend for ages.
Yes, Aardvark, the social search engine where you ask questions and friends answered, initially ran with a surprisingly human backend. For 9 months, 8 humans literally managed queries, classified conversations, acting like the AI behind the curtain.
9 months with humans pretending to be AI.
Basically, yeah. They only started automating the system after raising their seed and series of venture capital rounds. Their MVP proved people would respond, found it valuable, engaged with it, long before the complex AI was even built. The assumption was humans and AI would eventually cross paths, but first, they proved the core human interaction worked and created value.
This reminds me of the IMVU teleportation hack Ries talks about. Sounds like a classic MVP story of finding something totally unexpected.
It absolutely is. At IMVU, the founders felt really embarrassed shipping a product with static avatars. They knew customers would expect fluid 3D movement, like the Sims characters walking around.
Right, that seems basic for 3D.
Yeah. So as an MVP, to avoid years of complex engineering, they put in a simple teleportation feature. Avatars instantly teleported place to place with a click. No walking, no obstacle avoidance, no fancy graphics. They thought it was lame, a temporary hack.
And it did.
Surprisingly, when customers were asked about favorite features, they consistently listed teleportation among the top 3, often saying it was more advanced than The Sims.
More advanced. How?
Because it was faster. This super cheap compromise validated a core user need getting from A to B quickly without complex engineering. Proved customers cared about efficiency, not visual realism of movement, a real aha moment for them.
I can see entrepreneurs resisting MVPs, though. Fear of competitors stealing ideas, damaging the brand with something rough, or just getting bad news that your brilliant idea isn't so brilliant after all. How does Ries handle those very real fears?
He tackles them head-on because they're real concerns that can paralyze founders. Fear of competitors stealing ideas. Usually unfounded, he argues. He'd often tell fearful entrepreneurs, try to get a company to steal your idea. Most big companies are already drowning in their own good ideas and struggle to execute.
Yeah, fair point.
Branding risk. Launch the MVP under a different brand or operate under the radar stealthily until it's proven. And fear of bad news, false negatives. He emphasizes MVPs are designed to give a needed dose of reality. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about a commitment to iteration. You don't quit after one MVP. You learn, adapt, iterate towards a solution. Bad news, if it comes, is a gift. Helps you avoid much bigger failures later.
Okay, so you've built your MVP. You need to measure its impact. You mentioned innovation accounting and avoiding vanity metrics. What are those vanity metrics? Why are they so dangerous for a startup trying to learn?
Vanity metrics are just what they sound like. They make you feel good but don't tell you much. They're traditional gross metrics, total registered users, total paying customers, gross revenue. Dangerous because they give the rosiest possible picture.
Awesome.
They give the sensation of forward motion, even though the company was making little progress. Ricks calls it success theater. They can hide real problems, let entrepreneurs live in their own private reality where everything looks great on paper, but the underlying business might be falling apart. For example, early IMVU, despite constant quality improvements, rising gross numbers, their core funnel metrics, actual customer behavior, were stubbornly flat, working incredibly hard but not smarter, until they looked at the right data. Vanity metrics enable self-deception.
So how do you get past these misleading vanity metrics? Measure real progress, true validated learning. What's the most important tool for that?
The most important tool of startup analytics is undoubtedly cohort analysis.
Cohort analysis, okay.
Instead of looking at cumulative totals, which can look good just by adding new users while old ones leave, cohort analysis looks at the performance of each group of customers that comes into contact with the product independently. Like everyone who signed up in January. How did they behave over time compared to February signups? At IMVU, cohort analysis showed that after a fundamental pivot away from their original strategy, their product development suddenly became magically more productive. The positive changes in metrics within specific cohorts became the quantitative validation that our learning was real. Showed real progress, real behavior change, not just inflated totals. It tells you if your changes actually make a difference for specific user groups.
And what makes a metric good? You mentioned the 3 A's for actionable, trustworthy data. What are they?
Right, metrics should be actionable, accessible, and auditable.
Actionable.
Actionable means metrics must demonstrate clear cause and effect. You know how it goes. Numbers go up, everyone takes credit, and numbers go down, somebody else's fault. Actionable metrics are the antidote. They clearly link specific actions to specific outcomes. Grokkit, the online test prep company, tested this popular best practice, lazy registration, letting users sign up later. Through split testing, they found it resulted in exactly the same customer behavior as immediate registration.
No difference at all.
None. Showed the extra effort of lazy registration was a complete waste, and that maybe improving positioning and marketing might have a more significant impact. That's actionable, tells you what to stop doing, where to focus instead.
Okay, actionable. What about accessible? Just simple dashboards.
More than just dashboards. Accessible reports should be as simple as possible so everyone understands them. Use tangible, concrete units, people visiting the website. not vague hits or server requests. Cohort reports are gold standard because they deal with people and their actions, making them more relatable. And wide access is key. Grocket took accessibility to the extreme, mailed daily reports on every split test to every single employee. Fresh, easy-to-read copy for everyone.
Every employee every day. Wow.
Yeah, meant everyone. Engineers, marketing operated from the same shared, current understanding of customer behavior.
And finally, auditable. Why is that so crucial for metrics, especially when things move fast in a startup?
Auditable data must be credible to employees, essential for trust. Teams need to be able to test the data by hand in the messy real world by talking to customers. Check if reports contain true facts, not just abstract numbers.
Grounding it in reality.
Exactly. Avoids the blame the messenger thing if data looks bad. Lets managers and teams spot check data with real customers. If a team's judgment keeps getting overruled by bad or untrusted data, it kills confidence in the whole system. When IMVU used simple one-page reports to settle arguments, they built a process where anyone could quickly check the data's truthfulness, foster deep trust, shared understanding that data reflects reality.
So with all this build measure data coming in, you hit what Ries calls the toughest decision for any startup. Pivot or persevere. What's the overriding challenge here? It sounds like it takes real guts.
The overriding challenge is huge, yeah. And emotional. Are we making sufficient progress to believe that our original strategic hypothesis is correct, or do we need to make a major fundamental change?
Yeah.
That change is a pivot. And it's not just changing your mind or a minor tweak. It's a structured course correction, designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis about the product, strategy, engine of growth. A deliberate, data-driven strategic shift often means admitting your brilliant idea wasn't quite right.
The journey of Vodafone, David Benetti's startup, seems like a perfect case study of multiple, brave pivots. Can you walk us through that winding path? What did he learn?
David Benetti's story with Vodafone is a masterclass in pivoting. Absolutely. Started Vodafone as a social network for civic activism, connect people around causes. After 8 months, $20,000 investment, metrics were okay, but not good enough. 6% referral, 8% retention. Not the explosive growth needed.
So first pivot?
First pivot, a zoom-in pivot, narrowed the focus dramatically from full social network to a simple voter contact product at 2dove.com, just facilitating letter writing to Congress. This led to dramatic improvements, 42% sign-up, 83% activation, 21% retention, huge 54% referral rate. Found something that resonated. But despite high engagement, activists themselves wouldn't pay enough to make it sustainable.
Oh, so even with great engagement metrics, another pivot was needed. That's tough.
Yeah. Led to a value capture customer segment pivot. Instead of relying on individual activists for money, David realized he needed a paying customer. Pivoted to selling his voter contact services to large organizations, professional fundraisers, big companies who would pay significant amounts for direct voter contacts. Learning who the real customer was, how to capture value sustainably.
And then, incredibly, a third pivot. Sounds like a real roller coaster.
It really was. Final, critical shift. A platform pivot. Instead of selling individual applications one by one, David built a self-serve sales platform, like Google AdWords, but for civic engagement. Anyone can facilitate contacts with officials using a credit card, small fee per message, like 20 cents.
Scalable.
Exactly. Unlocked a truly sustainable viral engine of growth due to high referrals, ease of use. What's amazing, beyond the courage, is how his MVPs accelerated. First concept took 8 months, next 4, then 3, then just 1 month. Each pivot, David validated or refuted the next hypothesis faster. True organizational learning.
We also saw Wealthfront make a big pivot. From a kind of gaming platform to serious financial services, huge leap.
That's right. Another powerful example of a necessary data-driven pivot. Wealthfront started as Ka-Ching, a fantasy league for amateur investors. Users managed virtual portfolios, sophisticated tech rated the managers. Idea was to find talented amateurs.
Sounds cool. What went wrong?
Despite millions of games played, classic vanity metric didn't translate to business. They faced a harsh truth. Only 7 amateur managers out of millions actually qualified as worthy of managing other people's money. And, crucially, the conversion rate of gamers to paying customers trusting these managers with the real money, close to 0.
Oof.
Stark reality forced a fundamental pivot. Repurposed their tech, and learning about investor behavior became a technology-powered financial services company directly serving retail investors. Moved from finding amateur talent to being the automated financial service.
So with all this proof that pivots are vital for survival, why do companies, even smart ones, often fail to make them, even when the data screams it's needed? Seems self-destructive.
3 main reasons, really. All interconnected, all deeply human. First, like we said, vanity metrics. Huge culprit. Let entrepreneurs form false conclusions, live in their own private reality, comforting bubble where things look fine, robs teams of the belief change is needed because the numbers look good. Second, fear. Big one. Fear of admitting you were wrong, fear of public embarrassment, fear the vision might be deemed wrong without having been given a real chance. This psychological block ironically drives up risk because testing gets postponed until it's too late, investment too large to easily walk away.
So you double down on a bad idea because you're scared to admit it's not working instead of pivoting early when it's cheap. IMVU, despite its success, faced this too, right? Almost a cautionary tale for them.
Yes, even IMVU, pioneers of lean startup, fell into this trap once. After initial success, rapid growth with early adopters, the company ignored the principles behind them, got too successful with their niche early adopters, missed the crucial need for a customer segment pivot to attract mainstream users.
How did they miss it?
They were trusting our vanity metrics, which looked great for existing users, reaching diminishing returns on product development because they were optimizing for a market they were exhausting. Classic sign you need to pivot. Current growth engine sputtering, but you're blind because overall numbers still look okay. Ries actually lists a whole catalog of pivots to show the range of changes. Zoom in, zoom out, customer segment, customer need, platform, business architecture, value capture, engine of growth, channel, technology. The key is recognizing when to make one.
So once a startup has navigated these early stages, validated learning, maybe bravely pivoted, how does it get sustained, repeatable growth? What are these engines of growth that power a successful company?
Sustainable growth, for Ries, isn't from one-off viral hits or ad campaigns disconnected from value. It comes from the actions of past customers. He identifies three main engines: the sticky engine, the viral engine, and the paid engine. Each brings in new customers differently.
Let's start with sticky. How does that work? What kinds of companies use it?
The sticky engine focuses relentlessly on customer retention. New customers come mainly from repeat business and word of mouth from super satisfied existing customers who just stick around.
Like?
Think of collectibles marketplace users constantly check for new stuff, engage with the community, or robust enterprise database software customers get locked in once they build critical processes on it. Mobile phone providers, too, rely heavily on sticky. The core strategy: invest heavily in things that increase retention and engagement, make the product so integral, so valuable, customers rarely, if ever, leave.
And the viral engine sound like that Hotmail signature trick, almost like magic.
Often feels like magic, yeah, but it's a deliberate mechanism. The viral engine drives growth from person-to-person transmission as a necessary consequence of normal product use. Key here: customers aren't intentionally evangelizing. Growth happens almost automatically as a byproduct of just using the product. Hotmail's famous PS, get your free email at Hotmail. Signature explosive, effortless growth. Tupperware parties, too, selling to friends inherently spreads awareness, recruits new reps just through social interaction. Key metric: viral coefficient, K. How many new customers, on average, does each existing customer bring? If K 1.0, you get exponential self-sustaining growth. Strategy: relentlessly focus on increasing K. Often means not charging directly, reducing friction to sharing.
Okay, then there's the paid engine. Sounds like traditional business put money into marketing and sales.
It is, yeah. Often the easiest for traditional businesses to grasp. Paid engine relies on funded advertising or dedicated sales efforts to get new customers. Crucial metrics: customer lifetime value, LTV, how much revenue a customer generates over their whole relationship, and cost per acquisition, CPA, how much it costs to get one new customer.
And the rule?
Growth is sustainable only if LTV is consistently greater than CPA. Simple math. Strategy: either increase LTV, upsells, cross-sells, longer retention, or decrease CPA, more efficient ads or sales. Applies to digital ads, outbound sales teams, even retail foot traffic, any acquisition with a measurable cost. What's interesting is how these engines connect directly to product market fit. It's not just about picking one engine, is it? Not at all. Each engine gives a different lens, different metrics, to help find product market fit. Ries says when an engine can be defined quantitatively, when you have clear actionable metrics for it, those metrics show if a startup is on the verge of achieving product market fit. How so? A sticky engine company watches retention rates closely. Viral engine obsesses over their viral coefficient K. Paid engine lives and dies by LTV CPA. These quantitative signals guide product development focus. A viral engine company needs features that boost the viral loop. Paid engine needs strong marketing sales functions and features that increase LTV, helps focus limited resources.
Moving on to another core idea from lean manufacturing. Incredibly counterintuitive, but powerful for startups. The power of small batches. Feels like it should be less efficient, right? Like that envelope stuffing analogy.
It absolutely feels less efficient up front, which is why it's such a brilliant insight. James Womack and Daniel Jones, who wrote about Lean, tell this simple story. Imagine stuffing 100 envelopes. Intuitively, you think you'd be faster doing large batches.
Right.
Fold all 100 letters, then stuff all 100, then seal all 100.
Right, sounds efficient.
But the single-piece flow approach, complete each envelope fully, one at a time before the next, is actually faster overall. Why? It exposes problems immediately. If letters don't fit or envelopes are bad, you find out on the first one. Not after wasting time folding 99 others and then try to stuff bad envelopes. Prevents massive rework, delay down the line, even if it feels inefficient at the task level. Catch errors instantly before they multiply.
So Toyota's famous production system used small batches too, and that helped them become a global giant.
Yes. Facing a small home market, limited capital after the war, Toyota couldn't do mass production scale like Ford. Had to be agile. Use smaller, general-purpose machines making lots of different parts in small batches. Innovated rapid machinery configurations. Shingo's famous SMED, single-minute exchange of die, cut changeover times from hours or days to minutes, allowed greater product diversity, catering to fragmented markets with changing demands, eventually scaled to world's largest automaker by being faster, more adaptable.
How does that apply to entrepreneurship building new products, though? Not physical goods for most startups.
In Lean Startup, the goal of small batches isn't making more physical goods efficiently. It's to, as quickly as possible, learn how to build a sustainable business. Small batches ensure a startup can minimize the expenditure of time, money, and effort that ultimately turns out to have been wasted if assumptions are wrong.
Like IMVU releasing daily.
Exactly. IMVU releasing product updates daily force them to build an immune system, like Toyota's Andon Cord. Workers stop in the line for defects. IMVU's system automatically detected business consequences, like a white-on-white checkout button, making sales impossible, and halted production until fixed. Rapid feedback loop prevented small errors becoming catastrophes.
And modern tech makes this even easier now, I bet, especially with software.
Totally. Software's easy modifiability allows much faster changes, deployments than physical stuff. Flexible assembly lines, rapid prototyping tools like 3D printing, enable small batches, quick iterations. SGW DesignWorks, a product development firm, used 3D CAD and CNC machining to make physical prototypes of a complex field X-ray system in just 3 days. First production run of 40 units ready in 3.5 weeks. This nearly instantaneous feedback on design decisions from small batches let them develop an amazing 8 products in just 12 months.
Sounds like small batches can even change something as traditionally rigid as education.
Absolutely can. Initiatives like School of One give students daily playlists tailored to individual needs, not static year-long curricula. Built-in assessments give immediate data to the teacher. See impact of curriculum changes instantly.
So if something isn't working for a student,
The teacher knows right away, can roll out a different approach faster. Lets teachers work in much smaller batches for the student's benefit. Personalizing education daily.
but the natural tendency, especially in big established companies, is large batches. Why does that happen? And what's this inevitable large batch death spiral Ries warns about?
Comes from a deep belief that functional specialization and handoffs are more efficient. A product designer finishes 30 detailed drawings, hands off to engineering. Seems efficient for the designer.
Yeah, focus on one task.
But problems inevitably pop up later. Questions, unclear designs, bugs when pieces finally assemble. These become interruptions for the designer, now focused on their next big match. Engineers wait idle, or guess, introducing more errors. Leads to the large batch death spiral. Batches grow over time for perceived efficiency, leading to massive rework, long delays, constant interruptions. Can escalate into a bet the company new version, so complex, so full of bugs and features it's impossible to ship. Greg Wright at Intuit's QuickBooks saw their Net Promoter Score drop 20 points after an annual release. Classic achieving failure successfully, customer feedback came way too late in the large batch cycle.
So instead of being driven by internal production schedules, work should be pulled by a hypothesis about customer needs. Totally different driver for the team.
Exactly. In a lean startup, it's not the customer directly pulling work. Customers often don't know what they want until they see it. It's the hypothesis about the customer that pulls work from product development. Team's job, design and run the experiment to test that hypothesis. ASAP. Alphabet Energy Clean Tech Startup initially hypothesized large power plants were their market for their energy tech. Tested this in small batches for 3 months. Proved false power plants too risk-averse for new tech. pivoted efforts to manufacturers who were willing to experiment, demonstrated hypothesis pull in action, saved huge investment, time by quickly validating a new, better customer segment.
This all sounds like a constant systematic process. Identify problems, fix them, not just surface issues, but deep roots. Brings us to another Toyota tool, the 5 Whys. What is that? How does it drive out waste beyond just fixing the immediate bug?
The 5 Whys, powerful root cause analysis from Toyota. Simple idea. Problem happens, don't just fix the symptom. Ask why 5 times. Dig deeper each time, get to the underlying cause. Often reveals human or process issues behind technical faults. IMVU. Server failure. Why? Obscure subsystem misuse. Why? Engineer didn't know how to use it properly. Why? Never trained on it. Why? Manager doesn't believe in training. Too busy. Transforms a technical problem into a fundamental managerial one. Highlights a systemic issue, hitting the whole organization's ability to learn.
So once you find that root cause, after asking why 5 times, what do you do? Can't just stop everything, can you?
That's where proportional investment comes in. You fix the symptom immediately, get running again, absolutely. But then you make a small proportional investment at each of the 5 levels you found to prevent recurrence.
Proportional investment.
Yeah. If problem is minor, first time, investment might be small, maybe document the procedure. If it happens again, invest more, deeper levels until the root cause is truly fixed. Fights the I'm too busy manager mindset by showing how small, consistent investments in process improvement prevent much bigger, costlier problems later. Builds a system that continuously learns, improves.
This technique seems to rely heavily on a very specific culture, though. Trust, empowerment, not blame. Can you just implement that overnight?
No, definitely requires a huge cultural shift. 5 Whys absolutely needs mutual trust and empowerment to avoid becoming the 5 blames, shaming people instead of analyzing process. Goal, tolerate first-time mistakes, experimentation, but never allow the same mistake to be made twice. IMVU had this radical practice. New engineers made a change to production on their first day.
First day. Seriously.
Yeah, their mantra. If our production process is so fragile that you can break it on your very first day of work, shame on us. Not about catching mistakes, about building system resilience, culture of learning, not fear of failure right from the start.
That's a really powerful way to empower engineers, build trust. Now, stepping back, how do these lean principles, especially for innovation, apply inside big established companies? Often said large companies lose innovation capacity. Is that true?
Conventional wisdom says, yeah, big companies, bureaucracy, focus on existing stuff, inevitably lose innovation capacity, get disrupted by agile startups. The Lean Startup argues they can manage a portfolio of activities sustaining innovation, improving existing stuff, and disruptive innovation, creating new markets simultaneously. Not about being small, about structuring with the right approach, process for innovation, treating it like a distinct managed activity.
What are the specific structural things needed for internal innovation teams to actually succeed inside a big company, where the default is usually control and process?
Ries highlights 3 crucial structural attributes for these internal startups. First, scarce but secure resources. Not huge. Loose budgets easily cut. Creates instability. Need predictable, protected capital. Startups are super sensitive to mid-course funding changes. Second, independent development authority. Critical. Cross-functional teams need autonomy to build, market, deploy products without excessive approvals. Constant handoffs between departments. Handoffs, approvals, silos. Kill the build, measure, learn loop speed. Third, personal stake in the outcome. Beyond money, recognition, credit for success, real ownership feel over their venture. You need to feel like real entrepreneurs.
So if you can't just hide these messy innovation teams, how do you protect the parent organization from the uncertainty, potential failures of a startup initiative?
That's where the Innovation Sandbox comes in. Really critical tool, designed specifically to protect the parent organization from the startup. Defines clear, restrictive boundaries for experiments. Might restrict an experiment to certain website pages, specific user flows, particular stores, limited geographic areas, or a defined customer segment. Crucially, customers in the sandbox are real customers, not just concept tests. Team builds long-term relationships with them, not theoretical, real-world testing, contained environment.
So teams have lots of autonomy inside the sandbox, but they're still really accountable for their experiments.
Precisely. Teams in the sandbox are empowered to experiment, build, learn fast, but required to report progress, success using actionable metrics and innovation accounting. Even if initial experiments fail, rapid feedback, clear verdicts from metrics let teams converge on solutions much faster. fosters deep literacy about those metrics across the company, shows everyone how to make data-driven decisions based on real learning, not just gut feel or politics.
QuickBooks at Intuit sounds like a prime example of this, working in a big, established company, overcoming years of ingrained habits.
One of the best examples. Greg Wright at Intuit was tasked with bringing startup speed, innovation culture to QuickBooks' legacy product. Long history of annual waterfall releases, massive infrequent updates. He literally broke the muscle memory of large batches,
How?
formed smaller cross-functional teams, implement much shorter cycle times from annual releases to 6-week feature cycles, integrated much faster customer feedback, used idea code solution jams, engineers, product managers, customers collaborated from the start, blurring the lines. Was scary for management, felt like losing control, but led to an explosion in learning, productivity, fundamentally transformed QuickBooks development.
So successful sandboxes ideally grow over time,
Yeah.
but then what happens? Do the innovators just become the new guardians of the status quo? Never-ending cycle.
That's the natural, fascinating, sometimes disturbing evolution of innovation in big companies. Ideally, sandboxes expand scope as innovations prove successful, gain traction. Reality is, as their innovations become standard practice, those innovators often, almost inevitably, become guardians of the status quo themselves, defending the new normal they created.
Huh. Ironic.
Totally. Then necessitates creating new sandboxes for future innovation ways. Continuous dynamic cycle, disruption, reestablishment, then need for more disruption within the company itself. Innovation isn't a one-time project. It's an ongoing managed process.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the lean startup. To recap then, it's not just, a set of clever tactics or a quick fix for struggling businesses. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach entrepreneurship and innovation itself.
Absolutely. A true paradigm shift. Moving entrepreneurship from that myth-driven gamble on individual genius to a rigorous scientific management discipline. It's about building an adaptive organization. Not just fast, but learns faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
Constantly experimenting, iterating based on empirical, validated learning, bringing discipline to the chaos.
And what are the deeper implications? You mentioned Frederick Winslow Taylor at the start. His scientific management dominated the last century. How does lean startup connect to his legacy? What problem does it solve for our century?
It's a powerful, essential connection. Taylor's scientific management, early 20th century, revolutionized industrial efficiency. Brilliantly answered, can it be built? His methods focused on maximizing worker machine productivity, creating material abundance. The lean startup tackles the critical challenge of the 21st century. Should it be built? In a world where we can build almost anything, the critical question isn't can we build it, but is it truly valuable to customers? Worth the investment of precious human effort. By systematically finding and eliminating waste, what Ries calls the colossal waste of our civilization's most precious resource, the time, passion, and skill of its people, Lean Startup aims to unleash human potential on truly meaningful problems that actually need solving. So it's a profound call to action then, for anyone creating new products, services, founder, product manager, internal team leader. It is directly for you. It's about fundamentally changing how we greenlight new projects, how we measure success, how we foster a culture where ideas are evaluated by merit, not by job title or charisma. Ries offers a powerful caution, though. Adopting this feels worse before it feels better, because it relentlessly surfaces hidden problems, uncomfortable truths, forces you to face reality, but ultimately leads to true sustainable progress, because you're building products customers actually want and need.
If we truly stopped wasting people's time and talent by adopting these systematic, scientific approaches to innovation, what revolutionary products, services, solutions could we unleash? We have no real concept of what is possible when human ingenuity is truly unleashed and focused. What if every organization, large or small, harnessed this potential?